Hello and welcome to Move the Line, presented by 4for4.com. I'm Ryan Noonan, excited to be here for week one in this year 8, I think, of us doing this together. Connor, it's absolutely amazing to me where we started, where we are now, all the cool other things, ancillary pieces and parts of our journey. But excited to be here, as always, by Connor Allen. What's going on, buddy?
Yeah, not a whole lot. A lot of things have changed, and a lot of things haven't. There's, I think we have continuously gotten better at props, and we've gotten, I would say, better at size and totals. Like we've improved our craft. Loved working with the listeners and discussing things with them and the subscribers, like all that stuff. And our evolving mindset throughout those, whatever it's been, 8 years, which is crazy to think about. I don't even want to listen to what our first podcast was comparatively to this. It's probably a brutal listen. So if you were a day one person, we appreciate you more than you could possibly know. I can't imagine there are many because there weren't many people listening. So thank you all, and excited for this year to get going.
Yeah, back in the those are SoundCloud days. So when 4for4 acquired our show, we went to a new platform, and basically the SoundCloud episodes got wiped away. So no one can even find the old episodes, I don't think, at this point. I'm not even sure that's a real thing. But back in QTE days, a very different time. The Quant Edge, rest in peace. But yeah, cannot wait to continue to tackle this again with you. From just at the top, just a little bit of bookkeeping. Tuesday, we're going to be Tuesdays this year. We're doing this Tuesday live now again on the 4for4 Live YouTube channel. You can find Move the Line wherever you listen to podcasts. We're typically going to be in an earlier spot on Tuesday. Want to give a little bit of kind of a recap of the week, a little bit of our first look, expanded thoughts early in the week. Again, some of these numbers get real cooked out by the time we get into a Wednesday afternoon. So we're going to shift to earlier. So we'll be looking at 11 a.m. Eastern on Tuesdays. If you want to join us live, again, you'll be able to find the podcast later. Another addition to our show schedule this year, outside of the 4for4 Live and Move the Line feed, we're going to be on with Pat Mayo every Monday morning, kind of doing a similar thing, looking a little bit to a Monday Night Football using Sharp Stack, which we'll share with you again today if you're tuning in for the first time this season. It's a new tool that we have, or suite of tools that we have here at 4for4. Super excited about. It is popping with NFL stuff now. We've been talking about this for months. We are finally here with just this cascade of NFL bets that I am really excited to get into. But Prop Drop is going to be in the same time and place as normal as well. 3 p.m. Eastern every Friday. Myself, Connor, John Hyslop, uncorrelated parlays, actual bets, all the crazy nonsense that you would expect with a slop show that'll still be here as well on Fridays. So again, Move the Line wherever you listen to the podcast. 4for4 Live on the YouTube if you want to watch it live. We greatly appreciate all the support. Like Connor said, if you happen to be, even coming back from last year for the first time, we are grateful for that. We know you have a lot of options out there. So if you like these voices, these faces, the things that come out of our mouths, we are grateful to you and your support. So appreciate that. The betting subscription at 4for4 is where you're going to get access to all the plays, our official stuff. Connor's got a bunch of volume out already. We'll actually go through some of that later today on the prop side. I've only put out one play, waiting for some more books. The markets I'm swimming in are a little bit more late to the party, but Connor's got some great CLV already for us. I'm expecting another awesome season. We're going to unpack that. But if you want to get into those plays when they're released originally, you want to be a 4for4 betting subscriber, you got to be in the Discord. And again, the betting subscription is going to come with basically everything that we have at 4for4. So if you're playing DFS, season long, redraft, all that stuff that is there. We have an additional subscription this year as well, which is our Sharp Stack tool. Again, the EV tool, odd screens, ARB tool. We put out market derived projections now on there as well. If you're looking at DFS players, fantasy players, you're looking to use that to kind of help and look at one-stop shop for, making prop bets. That's all on there for you as well. And again, if you have questions, we're going to share some of that for you today, make it a little bit simple for you. And again, free trial is out there too. You just need to sign up and get a free 7-day trial. We're going to jump to some of the Sharp Stack stuff there today though. But first, Connor, week one, overarching storylines. I think we do our process and go through our divisional previews. We start really shaping and honing in our thoughts on some of these teams. And one of the pieces I want to talk about at the start that I think is really interesting when I was kind of going through these games, and I was thinking about essentially like a transitive property of our preseason expectations, right? So there's a team that we think pretty highly of. And in particular, in this instance, going up against a team that we don't think much of. I believe you have a Jets to be the worst team in the league, or worst record in the league bet. Again, right? So not like just binary bet, but long odds. And I think we both put the Steelers in the playoffs. So how do you kind of look at the week one lines that have been out since early May? It's kind of a different beast. So how are you kind of attacking week one, considering these are markets that have matured for 3 months? And then how are you kind of leveraging your preseason expectations for these teams, especially in this instance when they go head to head?
Yeah, it's tough. I still think that there can be some movement here later in the week. I know they have been around for a little bit longer, and so maybe there's less movement, but I think we're still going to see a decent amount here in the coming days. And part of the reason we wanted to do Tuesdays instead of Wednesdays, I think get a little better jump on kind of some of these markets right now. But in terms of like matching what we talked about all offseason with what we were talking about in season, like we are looking at, like 2 teams. I think that's a great example there where like I'm very, very low on the Jets for a variety of reasons. Obviously Justin Fields, the offensive line, the ancillary pieces behind Garrett Wilson are just like laughably bad. And then the defense played so bad under Robert Saleh. Meanwhile, the Steelers, there's a lot of reasons to be bullish on. So like maybe that's not the perfect way of making a week one bet, but it's certainly kind of what I lean into of like, I don't know if the market's correct on both these teams, one way or another. And so, we get them matched up in week one. And I think that that's potentially before the market adjusts to like kind of what, I don't know, we envision that to be, as long as we're right. We can't assume that we're right, but we bet assuming we're right. So that's, I think kind of the point there, right?
Right. Yeah. It's like, it's not like the Jets bet loses if they win in week one. And it's not like Pittsburgh can't make the playoffs if they lose in week one, but the path certainly gets harder when we're kind of going through those games.
You remember the Bears with Justin Fields, actually, this is great, beat the 49ers in week one 2 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that. It was like a pouring rain game, the Justin Fields game. And I'm pretty sure they won like 3 or 4 games that season. And they didn't finish with the worst record. They might have finished with the worst record, actually. I don't remember. It was like, I think it was like the 8th pick because they ended up trading in for Caleb or getting Caleb because of the Panther stuff. So, either way, they were awful. We bet they're under that year. That was like one of the easiest unders ever. It was 7.5, I think. 7.5 wins that year. So I still, again, don't think that it does make the path harder, but like week one, we can't overreact one way or another too much, and crazy things can happen. But again, just use whatever information we think we have and go from there.
Yeah, it's I'm torn with it because I do think there's something to be said for that. Like I want to trust the research that we did in the preseason, and when can that be more applicable than week one? Because there's so many variables that come up in the course of a season, injuries week to week, season, guys are lost for the season, all sorts of things. Like teams are as optimistic hitting the ground running in week one, right? Everyone's still in the best shape of their life. We're still happy Aaron Rodgers is our captain. Things are good, right? Like, so if you're like pro Pittsburgh, that makes a lot of sense. And Justin Fields bouncing balls in the guy's feet, and, airmailing the other guys. They have one receiver. Can he catch the ball? Can he get open? Like, there's just some of these things where it's like, I want to lean on what I thought was correct, and they feel like lost opportunities. So I want to get your thoughts too on a couple other, I think, important week one storylines before we start to get into some of our week one bets and leans and stuff like that. I think there's another really noteworthy game in the NFC North. It was a division that was, I think, interesting to unpack. What was interesting when we got to the end of the divisional previews is pre-Micah Parsons trade, you and I, without knowing, both were landing on the Packers as our NFC representative for the playoffs. We feel pretty good about some of those Packers futures that we have now, considering that the market has definitely moved in our favor, considering post-Micah Parsons. But we have an interesting matchup with a team in Detroit that there could be just some natural regression built in based off of how they were just a buzzsaw offensively last season. You have both coordinators leaving, and then you have this ascending Packers team at the same time, and just the divisional preview, that could be pretty interesting. The markets responded a little bit. Basically this was around 1.5 or so. We're kind of up to 2.5. So we're still sitting short of 3 here. But any thoughts on, kind of the storylines heading into Lions Packers for week 1?
I mean, I think you nailed it. It's like, how much does Micah play? It seems like we're getting reports that he's going to play a decent amount. I don't know. Maybe I'm foolish by saying this, but like, I kind of think edge, you can kind of just like toss him out there a lot of times and then just like let him cook, especially on passing downs. Like, I don't know. Like there's obviously stunts and there's obviously like he can drop back into coverage sometimes. There's probably more, intricacies than what I'm saying, but more so than a lot of other positions. Like,
yeah, I think you're right.
You can probably just toss them out there and I think they'll be okay. So I would expect we see probably a reasonable amount of Micah right off the rip. And I think too, also like any extra stress that he adds to that, like the outside offensive line, like the Lions kind of like revamped some of the interior offensive line as well. And that could cause some problems too. So like, any extra attention that needs to be on the outside, again, like could have caused more issues on the inside. And like that, this Packers team, we were bullish on their offense. Jordan Love looks to be healthy. Jaden Reed is probably playing through an injury, but I think Matthew Golden has far outperformed expectations from a preseason standpoint and like offseason standpoint. Cause I don't think that either of us were super high on him as a prospect, but there's been nothing but like rave reviews of him. Now, obviously, again, he hasn't played an NFL game. He could suck. We could be right. But I'm adjusting here quickly. Like, I don't want to be sticking to my, noob college film take, priors here. So I want to be moving quickly. So I think that if Golden can be anything near a true number 1 for them, then the Packers are in a really, really, really strong spot. Still with Josh Jacobs, still with a good offensive line. Like, I don't know. I just think this team could be built here at under 3 points at home against the Lions team that's going through transition. Also, did you see the comment too, the Lions, about how Jameson was like, oh, our coach now is just like letting us win one-on-one. Some people took that as a positive. I took that as a massive negative. Like he said, like, oh, he's just like isolating us or whatever, like putting us like into, he's like letting us win, which maybe is fine for Jameson. Yeah. Like, is that a good thing though? Like, I don't even know. Like, I would almost rather them like there were guys running wide open all the time with Ben Johnson. Like, they didn't even have to win. They were just open.
Yeah. No, I didn't see that quote, but that's definitely interesting. Yeah. We'll see how that plays out. And we don't know enough about the coordinator and how that's going to change. I think you have to expect that there's something to be said that, yeah, there's still a ton of talent on that team. And, Dan Campbell's still the leader of men. He's in charge of everything there. But at the same time, like play sequencing, right? So it's not just the plays themselves, it's when they're called in situations. And I think that there's something to be said where that's just really hard to replicate, from, a different person's brain, right? Even someone that the continuity of like coming up and staying on the same staff, like just, I'm interested and fascinated to see. There's really no way for us to know how to specifically handicap that heading into week 1, but that's one of the, I think, noteworthy, definitely a highlight game of the week, especially in that late window. That's going to be really fun on Sunday. Another one that's interesting in the early window is not necessarily something you jump out on paper. Is we have one of these scenarios, and we have a handful of these divisional home dogs this week. And divisional home dogs, if you're a trends better, it's not something that you and I think lean on or believe in or are really ever referencing. It's definitely not ever the reason for me to form a bet, but there's a pretty strong trend. And I don't swim in these waters very often, but I do know that historically, especially early in the season, divisional home dogs are probably, like, if you're just looking at blind bet sides and totals, probably a pretty good area to go, right? Like every case is going to be different. The Browns are hosting the Bengals, who repeatedly year after year stubbed their toe in week 1 and sometimes week 2, right? Like a lot of survivor pools died in week 1 last year when the Patriots went to Cincinnati and won. Not a divisional dog scenario, but a Bengals slow start scenario. They went out of their way this year to talk about, we're going to play our guys in the preseason. We're going to, make sure that we're dialed up a little bit more for week 1. We have this nobody believes in us Browns team, except Mayo. Mayo seems to be, every time we get on a show with Mayo, he wants to tell us how good the Browns are going to be. But He's the only guy. He's carrying the water for sure for Cleveland, but no one else really believes much in Cleveland. What do we do with this slow start divisional dog combination with Cincinnati and Cleveland?
Well, I think it was like maybe a month or so ago when we were doing this divisional preview. that we were saying that there's some certain like archetypes of teams that I think were pretty ripe to upset the Cincinnati Bengals, especially if their defense like doesn't improve much. Like maybe I'm sure it'll improve a little bit. You know, it was pretty bad a lot of times last year, but if it doesn't improve a lot, which I don't think, I mean, there are some reasons to believe it gets better, but based on their preseason outing where most of their starters, if not all their starters, were playing, I don't expect much improvement right off the rip. And that was like pretty pathetic, especially run defense wise. But like, I think this Browns team is one of those teams that could upset the Bengals. And so the Browns defense still has a lot of talent. They still have, a lot of good players. Their offensive line is fine. And they're, depends what we get from Joe Flacco. I think a lot of the Browns downside outcomes were because there's just like so much uncertainty at quarterback, whether it's like Shedeur, Flacco, Kenny Pickett at the time, Dylan Gabriel. I think Flacco will provide them serviceable, not great. There's no way that he's like vintage Flacco, but serviceable enough quarterback play to keep them interesting, keep it like kind of frisky here. And their defense could be good enough to, I don't know, maybe slow down the Bengals a little bit, not fully, but like a little bit. And so I think that they're a team that could outright win at home against the Bengals, which sounds crazy. The Bengals are viewed in a much higher light, but that is one of my favorite plays so far. I played it. It's like, I think 2-1 or better money line right now. I know a little bit spicy, but also played some Cedric Tillman props over at open. That was like one of our early ones. We got in at like 32, 33, something like that. And now it's up to 40. I'd still might dabble in some alts. I don't know. Like I played 60 or 70 at that kind of open, like as an alt as well. I think that's still viable as well. So lots of fun bets, I think, in this game. This game could be pretty hot. I don't know. Are you with me on the Browns thing, or I think you kind of more believe that the Bengals defense is going to be better, like a good bit better, which would probably change my opinion on this game too.
Well, so I think two things can be true at the same time. I think it can be better, but I think I'm with you. Like he can be better and still be 20th in the league, right? Like that's good enough to put them in the playoffs if the offense is what they were last year, or even 90% of it, right? Just healthy Burrow, I guess, is what we're talking about here.
Yeah,
but it's not. I don't think there's a path for this to be a good defense. Like an actual, like go out and, Burrow didn't have it today and the defense went out and won you a game. That is not going to happen even against Cleveland. So I mean, I think we've seen some action the other way. Like we've seen like Circa and Bookmaker move to 5 where, that's pretty telling. Like the number of pinnacles getting a little shorter on the 5.5. That feels like it's probably going away. Definitely some 5.5s across domestics. And even kind of leaning Cleveland there too. So I think you're on the right side, like in terms of just they're terrifying. And like it's again, part of it is also just we've just seen it for too long. The Bengals just somehow get off to a slow start every year.
Yeah, I don't really know what to make of that, but yeah, I agree with you. And then we got Richie commenting Bengals started being gouged by the number 2 squad in preseason. Yeah, I mean Chris Rodriguez and Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt look like all stars, against them, which I mean they're probably fine, but I can't imagine that they're all that good as players. He also added Njoku over receiving in yards. Yeah, I mean anytime there's Joe Flacco, you can probably sell me on any overs on Njoku, on Tillman, on Judy. I think all of them are live. So no complaints on my end there.
Yeah, my only concern is that the Flacco that we saw last year in Indy is different than the Flacco we saw 2 years ago in Cleveland, right? And the age cliff can come up real quick. And, and I don't know if that's Steichen scheme related. I wouldn't think so. I feel pretty good about, maybe the bloom is off that rose as well with Steichen being, so we'll see. I mean, but it's definitely not like, I'm not jumping on Cincinnati, who I think is significantly better at 5.5, or it's like under a key number if you like the Bengals side. Like I'm fine missing out on that. I'm not desperate for the points with Cleveland. I think what you're doing is the right way to do it. It's like take a swing, just take them on the money line, at 2 and change. And just, if you're right, you're right. That's a better reward than the 5.5, which could, lose in a backdoor field goal or something. And you probably, had a shot earlier in the game.
Right. Yeah. I think one of the downside cases for this Browns team would be like maybe Flacco just turns the ball over too much, or just like throws the ball, YOLO balls it too much. Just like that's all possible too. Wouldn't be that shocking for him at this point. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe the scheme difference. He didn't look great in Indy. Obviously, like kind of got like re-benched, I think, right? It was like he Anthony Richardson got benched. He played, and then he got like re-benched again after not playing all that well. So maybe it's a scheme, maybe it's the players. So I don't. We'll see. I mean, but I think that they're a ripe team for an upset here. I think it could be an interesting game.
Yeah, there's another divisional dog situation, which I also think is one of like the better storylines on both sides of the ball, is Monday Night Football for the week. We have JJ McCarthy, with a loaded roster around him, with an exceptional play caller, talent maximizer, I think we feel like, in Kevin O'Connell, and the debut of Ben Johnson in prime time, right? And hopefully be the next, at least Bears fans hope he is the next Kevin O'Connell in terms of elevating the talent that he has, maximizing the young quarterback that he has. I think it's a very, very, very fascinating spot in terms of both how this division plays out, about the discourse on a Tuesday morning coming out of that game, right? Unless there's just very easy understanding like what the loud show talking points are going to be. Well, what we saw there is like JJ McCarthy is not ready. He couldn't do it in Michigan. They were hiding him in Michigan. Or it's like, no, Ben Johnson is out over his skis, and this was all Dan Campbell, and like Caleb Williams is not the guy. And like either way, we're going to get that in some form on Tuesday. What do you think it's going to be, though?
Yeah, I think this is a super interesting one, because I think that Ben Johnson just like has to be ready, right? Like he has to be ready, because Flores versus him is like kind of a fun little chess match in my mind, because that the Vikings are just going to blitz Caleb and like just see what he's made of and just go for it and kind of like let him have it a little bit. And I think that is a pretty interesting thing to do. And if Ben Johnson is ready for it, like it could lead to like an incredible Caleb Williams win. It's also worth noting too. So like last year against Minnesota, Detroit, Jared Goff was like crazy efficient from like a completion percentage standpoint. The first game they won 31-29. He completed 22 of 25 passes. The next game, 27 of 33 passes. So I would guess that Ben Johnson probably, maybe not figured out, but like is going to keep in Cole Kmet a ton to block, like add an extra guy in there, keep the running back in to block, keep like, and then just have like two receivers and then maybe Colston Loveland just out there running routes, which is fine, because like they can't be caught off guard here and just getting sacked. Caleb's going to hold the ball on the ball for too long anyway sometimes. So I think that's the biggest chess match for me, is like, how does Ben Johnson respond? And if it's not going well, like the Bears could score like 7 points in this game, and it might be a complete disaster, to be honest. So that's like the downside outcome. The upside is like it's all clicking. He's getting the ball out quick. Ben Johnson's just got to figure it out, and it's good to go. Yeah, Brian brings up Colston Loveland overs this week. They are really short. They're like 24. I think he opened at. So I don't know. Maybe this is kind of where my mind went. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts maybe on the other side of the ball too with Dennis Allen's defense? Because there's some interesting thoughts there too, I think.
Yeah, this is one of the games I cannot wait to watch for all these different reasons. You laid out the Flores Johnson chess match piece, because like Minnesota's going to blitz at least 50% of the time. They feel pretty confident about that. We've done it pretty much every year that Flores has been out there. And then these scenarios where they dial it up. Like it's going to be like 70% for the week. Like this happens. And then it's being able to account for where's it coming from, knowing that they're going to play zone behind it, right? So I'm sure the average of the target, even in those Goff games, was probably maybe even a little bit lower than the standard Goff ADOT, just to account for getting the ball out quick, finding a soft spot in the zone, knowing that if you can get it out quick, there's no way that they could properly account for where they're coming from quick enough. So that piece is also kind of so far rubs up against what Caleb has done really poorly, is that processing piece, right? He's kind of a hero when he has a ton of time to create and make spectacular plays. It's that diagnose, get it out, find the soft spot quick, move the chains, survive for the next play. That hasn't really been, even at Oklahoma, even at USC, and definitely not in 1 year in Chicago. So it's going to just, again, from I think an actual football fan standpoint, the game is going to be just fascinating to watch. And you're right too. On the other side is going to be really interesting. Like, what can O'Connell do against Dennis Allen? What does the Dennis Allen defense look like compared to what his New Orleans defense is? We're a lot more man coverage, a lot more like situational blitzing. There's some injuries on the defensive side on Chicago that, I think we're going to be okay. Like Jalen Johnson, that's a pretty important injury there. I think Tremaine Edmonds, they said he's got some soft tissue stuff. They don't think it's going to be a problem. Like, When has that ever been the case? Who's ever had soft tissue injury that's not been a lingering problem? I don't know that I feel necessarily good about that, right? In terms of, maybe them being able to operate over the middle of the field with like Hawkinson or something like that. That's kind of news I'll be monitoring in terms of props for us to attack. But it's a great matchup.
I think on that side too, we were talking about it in our group Slack before about how Minnesota probably has maybe the biggest advantage of the game. Like I think probably their offensive line against Chicago run defense right now, and just probably pounding the rock. And I mean, when you have Jordan Addison out, Justin Jefferson injured, you traded for a geriatric Adam Thielen, Jalen Naylor is just got coming off of surgery, and it's JJ McCarthy's first game. They're probably just going to jam the rock, right? Like I don't see them going coming out and just going pass heavy. Maybe I'm totally off on that, but it seems like they have a lot of it's like their weakest point here. And then plus all their guys are kind of injured or banged up already. Hawkinson, I guess, is healthy, but that's kind of interesting to me on that perspective. And then one other thing that stuck with me back on the other side of the ball was I think that just because Ben Johnson would run the ball a lot in Detroit and they had a great 1-2 duo, I'm not sure it's apples to apples with what the Bears have. And I would assume that Ben Johnson obviously knows this, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them throw the ball a lot more than they did in Detroit and just come out and go pass heavy, maybe more screens, maybe more sweeps to DJ Moore. I don't know. Just get more things, just pass the ball more instead of run the ball. Cause they can't, I mean, if they try and go out there and just jam the ball with Swift, like they do with Montgomery and Gibbs, they are going to be awful. They're going to be a terrible team, but I'm pretty confident that they're not going to do that. I would guess
they don't have Montgomery or Gibbs on the roster, right?
They got neither. Yeah.
And then you double tap pass catcher early in the draft, right? First time, again, that's Ryan Poles making the picks, but I think Ben Johnson has a say, and you go Loveland and Luther Burden. It's the strength of your team, right? There's, the emergence of Rome in year 2. DJ Moore just continues to be a forgotten man who produces. It is the strength of your roster. So I think you're right. I could see, depending on how the game, these don't actually, well, maybe they do. I'm thinking about Caleb attempts, and then whether it's Mason or Aaron Jones, rushing attempts, or some sort of way that I think that the game probably leans in terms of how the teams want to play, kind of regardless of what the score ends up being, right? I mean, obviously Minnesota's trailing. You're going to turn McCarthy loose with whatever they have. But at the same time, while it's in neutral scripts, I think you probably would lean that way for both those teams.
Yeah. Caleb 31.5 attempts. Pretty interesting. There's a rushing attempts from Mason, but it's not widely available. And I think that's one that we could be looking at. So I'm not going to, blow any cover there, but it's definitely an interesting one, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. The game is going to be fascinating to watch. So, all right. What other, about some week 1 leans or any other sides, totals, Wongs, team totals? What have you got your eye on?
Yeah, we'll start with do you want to start or end with the Thursday night game coming up here real quick? We don't have to go too long on it, but
yeah, let's start with it.
I think that Eagles Cowboys over is pretty interesting. Eagles have some questions in the I think outside corner is a little bit of a question, right? And
for
so
sure.
You talked about that, where are they going to play Cooper DeJean? Is he going to slide outside? Is he going to just still be a slot guy? I think that that's a big turning point of Pickens versus CD in this game, essentially, and who kind of crushes. And I mean, we know that we were not expecting the Cowboys defense to be good before the Micah trade. We were expecting it to be a volatile defense that could probably hang its hat on wreaking havoc, getting some sacks, pressure, turnovers, but not all of that, but a lot of that was from Micah. And so when you lose a guy like him, do you have the stat? What was they're one of the worst defenses in the worst defense in the league without Micah, I'm pretty sure, the last couple of years.
Yeah, that 32nd EPA per play with him off the field.
Yeah, so that doesn't seem good to me. I think
I think it's last, Connor. I don't quote me on that, but I think 32 is last.
32 out of 32, unless there's an expansion team coming soon. I think that. So yeah, that, and then the Eagles like to milk clock, but they might be just too efficient to milk clock. I think that they might just be gouging this Cowboys team, and then we're going to see a ton of attempts from Dak. So yeah, we got some people here in the chat saying, Dak loves the garbage yards, backdoor covers. So yeah, I think that's I like the over in this game. It's like 47.5. I mean, the only thing that I think really kills this is if like Dallas just sucks offensively, or the Eagles just like have those like 10-minute drives where they don't get that, where they aren't that efficient, but they just keep getting tush push first downs, and it goes under. But still, I think there's a lot of paths over here.
Yeah. So we had yesterday, Vic Fangio said that he knows who's starting at perimeter corner and safety and linebacker, but he's going to allow his head coach to make those announcements. And none of the local beat reporters expect the head coach to make those announcements whatsoever. So it's like, all right, we've decided internally. Yeah, we don't know. So, and then look, those are just questions. Even if you're at this point in the season and you're not in a situation where it's injury based, right? Like you have concerns that you don't have someone that you want, that you're assuredly lock in. Definitely. That's concerning, right? Same thing. It's like if, again, like you said, the perimeter corner and safety, linebacker, I think we know it's going to be Jahad Campbell. He's going to, get those LB2 snaps. He really hasn't been playing much in terms of edge rusher. They have kind of still, again, even though they lost bodies, they got a boatload of edge rushers that they're going to mix in and they'll be fine. So yeah, I think there's some opportunities there to lean into the prop market in particular. Dory Jackson. Yeah, possibly. Keelan Ringo was not very good in the preseason. They wanted it to be Ringo. We'll see. I don't sit here today with a ton of confidence that there's just one guy, right? It's just one of those scenarios where it's not like quarterback. When you have three quarterbacks, it means you have zero quarterbacks. It's like, well, no, if you can't pick a definite outside corner, that's a problem. And then you start to pull a strength of like Cooper DeJean in the slot, and maybe need him to rescue you in two receiver sets and play on the outside. I don't know. It's more of a question than you would expect for like this team that everyone thinks is just going to run it back and be absolutely dominant defensively again. I have some concerns. There could be some opportunities for Dak and do what they do best, lean into their strengths, lean into where their dogs are, with Pickens and Lamb. I think we kind of agree there too. It feels like Philadelphia. If you're in these waters, long teaser leg feels pretty nice. 7.5. And even as we climb out to 8, like Philly less than 3. I think there are worse bets to be made, I would think, this weekend. So that's something that's definitely interesting to me. So
we have our BetSpert survivor pool, and I'm not taking the Eagles here. I don't know why. Like I'm taking Cardinals and Broncos, which I don't know if you guys saw, but there's like 8,000 entries of overlay right now, which is like there's only like 2,500 out of 11,000. So $50 to enter, $500K guaranteed. Wasn't meant to be an ad read here, but now that you brought it up, I think it's probably worth mentioning. I got a couple entries. I'm probably rolling Broncos, Cardinals, but now that you brought up the Eagles, it's like, should I just fire another one with the Eagles? It's like week 1, too. Like I can't just do one because I'm one of these teams is probably going to lose. I feel like I don't know why. I just always get this like vibe that
always.
We should actually touch on that game too. I think the Broncos Titans game to me is worth talking about too. But I don't know if you had any last thoughts here on this Eagles Cowboys one.
No, splashsports.com/4for4. Jump in, $50. Overlay $500K up top. I mean, I would think the Broncos are probably the most popular bet. Sure. They're also like 7.5 at home. There's some 8s out there, so it's moving a little bit. Look, we talked about this for years. Denver at home in September is, even with some bad Broncos teams, it's been a really tough spot. So now you have a situation where you have a rookie quarterback who I think it's inarguably, he's like the least talked about number 1 pick rookie quarterback that I can ever remember. It's just, he's been good, but like, there just hasn't been a lot of like Cam Ward hype. Tough test week 1 on the road in Denver.
Yeah. I mean, brutal. So Debro commented Denver, Tennessee under total. That's probably my favorite look. We're looking at 42.5 here. Like just the way that these teams match up. Like I think this Denver defense almost certainly is going to be like elite when they added Jahdae Barron. Obviously still have Patrick Surtain. They're good, like front to back. And then they're facing a Titans team that is a better offensive line, but their receiver depth is not very good. Outside of like, we're talking about Calvin Ridley, who's like, I don't even know if he's really a true number 1 at this point in his career. He's probably better off as like a 1B or like a 2, honestly. And then, they have Ellick. Imanor or whatever from Stanford, who I think is getting the start, just announced as the starting receiver in their depth chart. I just don't see really how this Tennessee team matches up all that well against Denver. Now, I will say, and this is kind of what's like keeping me up at night with just like locking Denver across the board, is like, what if Cam Ward is just like Jaden Daniels, or like, and just like comes out and is just a baller? I mean, that's like, because that is not baked into this line, I don't really think much at all. Like, if he comes out and is just extending plays and, getting guys, the guys are eventually getting open. And like, this is just a thing that hasn't really it happens all the time. Like, it's every once in a while you'll see a rookie quarterback come out, because on paper I'm seeing like a rookie quarterback that's like way overwhelmed on the road in Denver week 1. I'm like, oh, this is a smash pick on Denver. But then I just have this like small piece of me that's like, dude, if Cam Ward's like an absolute baller, like they could lose outright at week 1. And like, I guess like in hindsight, it wouldn't be that crazy if Cam Ward's really that good.
Yeah, I mean, I go back to the Bengals talk earlier. Like, we thought the Pats were going to be the worst team in the league. The Bengals had Super Bowl aspirations. It was Jacoby Brissett, because God forbid we put Drake May behind that offensive line. He can't survive. He would die. And then they go on the road and they win, right? So I do think there is a scenario where literally everything happens. So having, again, multiple survivor outs is the way to go about it. I would definitely – I don't think you need to get like you don't benefit from going completely off the board early, right? You're just not getting enough leverage in a large pool survivor in week 1. But at the same time, like, diversify if you're taking a few different shots. So, yeah, if he's him, then you probably wouldn't want to be overexposed to Denver in week 1, though I do think it's the right side. And I still worry about this Tennessee defense. I think Sean Payton led offense, and, Bo Nix in year 2, a better run game, great offensive line. You just, whether it's, Sutton is like a clear wide receiver 1, there's just enough guys there. You had Evan Ingram. Like, I don't know. I think it's going to be a pretty interesting and exciting season in Denver too. So yeah, I'm not too shy on Denver, but I do think it's a smart way to go about multiple entries.
Yeah, it feels like every year we see either like a completely new situation or a rookie quarterback, or like, remember when Jared Goff was on the Rams and they got McVay and it was just like everything clicked and it was like insane. Jared Goff, when they got Ben Johnson, and like they went from like 4-11 to like winning 12, 13 games. And it's just like, whatever you, I don't know, thought about in your mind of like whatever that team was, they just were not that team anymore. So like, you think about the Titans, you're like, oh, this team sucks, like whatever. On paper, they're not that good. And then one guy comes in and he's just a baller and changes everything. And it's like a real sweaty game. And like you're dripping sweat in a last second field goal in Denver for the Broncos. So I don't know. That's just like kind of what always scares me away, is like the uncertainty here. Yeah.
And someone that's going to do that, like Goff, is going to be maybe the 101, right? Like, that's, I think, the case you're making, right? Like, it shouldn't surprise us if Cam Ward is that kind of guy. He was literally taken first in the draft. So
you're right. Like, is that crazy? I don't know.
They're hoping for him to be that dude, right? Yeah. I mean, that's definitely the path forward for Tennessee in the next, 5 to 10 years. So no, not crazy at all. Taking a road team in week 1, we'll let you talk about the Cardinals and the Saints. There's some 6.5s now. We've kind of moved out to 5.5. This was right around 6.5 and 6 back in May when it opened. And then we kind of got bet down a little bit. I think it's just like one of those scenarios where, should the Cardinals be almost a touchdown favorite on the road against anybody? But then you look at the Saints team and you're like, maybe this is the case.
Yeah. I mean, Saints run D should be better, especially, we talked about it last night when they get Walter Nolan back. Their defense, there were some interesting splits. Maybe it was Cleve TA tweeted them out about how like the Cardinals defense was like sneaky really good by the end of the year when they kind of got fully healthy. And that's like a massive problem for the Saints team. It's starting Spencer Rattler. Obviously they have new coaching staff here. I just can't say that I'm very high on them. And I think their defense could be a problem as well. So like the Cardinals offense, I think is just going to be steady. They're probably not going to like, I don't know, drop like 40 on them or anything, but like 28, like just rolling over them with James Conner and, McBride and Marvin Harrison Jr. are just like significantly better than anyone the Saints have. I mean, the Cardinals are just like top to bottom, like a really good team, or like a really way better team than them. Sorry, not a really good team overall, but like a way better team than the Saints. And so I don't know. I kind of think 6.5 is interesting, but taking, like a team that we don't think is like an elite team, 6.5 on the road, I don't know. That's, I think, kind of the downside case. But like from a matchup perspective, I think that the Cardinals are like kind of a nightmare scenario for the Saints, honestly, early.
I put them in the playoffs. I think pretty highly of them this year. I would, like you said, I would like Walter Nolan back. I am excited about this defense. Someone, again, who nerds out pretty heavily on the defensive side. I think they're going to do a lot of things interesting from a formation standpoint. They have some players that are better than people know, but just because they've been like pretty irrelevant for the last couple of years, you don't know about a Garrett Williams, who's like one of the best slot coverage corners in the league, who might play a little bit more on the outside because they seem to want to run a bunch of like 3 safety looks this year and bring guys from like all over the field from a blitzing standpoint. Like they added Josh Sweat. Calais Campbell like was really good last year for Miami. He's going to hold it down in the middle still at this stage in his career, even though, he's a little bit late and long in the tooth. So yeah, if they can get something out of Will Johnson, who they, use a 2nd round pick on, that could be really nice. This could be a very interesting ascending team. I'm also really some prop stuff here on the Cardinals side. That's interesting. And I want to kind of see those markets pop before we start talking about that specifically. So yeah, I lean for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say I did release one of my first plays like last, I don't know, Friday. I played James Conner over 15.5 carries. I think there's still some stuff up right now. Let me check Sharp Sack real quick, and we don't need to pop it up necessarily, but got a nice new odds screen over here. Let's see here. Yeah, 15.5 still at 365 has -115. Fliff has -130. MGM -145. I think 16.5 could be okay too. He was like he had 16 plus carries in 10 of 13 games where he didn't leave early for injury. Again, they're like 7-point favorites against the worst team in the league. So I think they should see a ton of work, and I'm not buying like any of the Trey Benson like being involved stuff. Like I think it's going to be like almost all James Conner here. So I mean, barring that either being completely wrong or them just like losing basically, or the Saints just like being able to run the ball like super efficiently and hold the ball for a long time, which I think are 3 pretty unlikely outcomes, to be honest. I think that he could like honestly be closer to 20 carries by the end of the game instead of like 16. So that's kind of my look on Conner.
Yeah, I like the Conner look for sure. What other, well, I'll give you one. This kind of touches on some of the other stuff. Home dog in the division. I think the Falcons are interesting. I like the Falcons 2.5. I think they're getting the Bucs at a good time with, the Wirfs injury, with, just just some little things here and there, right? Like I still think Tampa Bay is a really good team. I think they're going to be around. I'm not like completely expecting them to implode in on themselves this year, but if there's an opportunity for Atlanta to get going, right? Michael Penix is healthy. We know that. They have some injuries as well. I think they're going to have a hard time stopping Drake London in this game. I think he is, I think he's going to be pretty fascinating in this one. I think Bijan can eat. I'm excited about a bunch of players on the Falcons defense. I love that they're going with a couple of their rookies on the defensive side that I think have a ton of upside. Obviously, James Pierce cannot do a show and not tell you that James Pierce is going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. Make that bet. But I think, again, taking advantage of Wirfs being out of the lineup, we saw kind of a return to Baker taking a decent amount of sacks last year. Pressure to sack rate kind of was climbing back up pretty steadily towards the tail end of last year after being really good 2 years ago. That was definitely a bugaboo for him coming into his time at Tampa Bay. Early career, Baker loved to take a sack. So that was a problem. Yeah, I like this spot for Tampa. I think, again, this could be a long leg. As a home dog that you can get out to like, or, plus 8.5. You mentioned the Broncos, like that's a nice little 2-leg Wong for me that I think I'm going to get down on. But I think they can win this football game. So I think they're just getting the Bucs at the right time.
That's fair. Yeah. I don't have there are 2 teams that I kind of struggle with. I mean, I wanted to be higher on the Bucs for a lot of the reasons that you mentioned. I mean, where they're just like, when you lose Godwin, when you got Jalen McMillan out, when you lose Tristan Wirfs, like you're already like kind of hampered by injury. And I think Ibuka, Debro mentioned him, Ibuka overs potentially. Like Ibuka, I think is going to walk into like 8 targets probably week 1. That would not be surprising at all. And then also K Dotton's already kind of like dinged up. So like that's another option there. And then, so yeah, I think like that would make sense for him to see a lot of targets, but from a pure game perspective, I just don't know, honestly, on this one. So yeah, I think probably taking the dog would make sense at home. And I think the Michael Penix just like might be a guy. Like I think that's an option we talked about this last, like in the preseason thing. Like he flashed arm talent. It wasn't always all there, but like pepper Drake London with targets. Like Drake London has a legit chance to lead the league in like total targets based on, Darnell Mooney injured. His target share last time, 31 targets in 2 games for Michael Penix. I mean, that's crazy stuff. And the camp reports have been saying, the same thing basically. So like, it's like, he's just getting peppered with targets. So I don't know. I think London stuff could be interesting too. You brought it up, I think, in our chat. Is that like,
it's just one of those ones I would bet and never tell you. Cause because we're talking about like a high end receiver. We're looking at like 6.5 receptions and like 75.5 yards or something like that. It's hefty.
Why don't we just take the 8+ or something on the prop show on Friday? Like that can be.
Yeah, that's totally what I'm planning on doing. Yeah. Oh yeah. Like, Drake 100+ for sure.
I'm fine with that. Like I think the upside is there. I agree with you. Just from like a base -110 standpoint, I'm probably not laying it over on 6.5, something like that. But that could be way short too. Like again, if he's seeing 10+ targets a game, 6.5 is for sure short.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a scenario where it's like we cut to halftime and it's like, all right, Drake London has 6 for 68 at the half, and it's like, and I was afraid to take over 6.5. He's almost there, just getting absolutely pounded, right? And I'm just not afraid of, I like the 2 young rookie nickels in this game. I like both of them a lot. I'm not going to nerd it out on Jacob Parrish and Billy Bowman Jr., but excited for both of those guys. But they're not, we're still Abuka and Drake London are going to eat in this game. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunities here. And I think the pace that they played with last year too, again, small sample, but they played with a little bit more pace. They ran a little bit more no huddle with Penix than they did with Kirk. So I just think that there's a lot of upside for fireworks in that game. So Falcons team total is interesting to me. Falcons getting points. Falcons as a Wong teaser leg through the 3 through the 7. I have interest in the Falcons for sure.
So. Nice. Yeah, I like that one. I think I only have 1.5 more. We kind of talked about the Steelers already. Steelers -2.5 against the Jets. I think we're both in unison on that. We discussed it a little bit. I don't know if you had anything to add there, but I think they're just a better team.
Just a better team. Yeah, I don't have a lot of like nuts and bolts. It's just one of those scenarios where I'm like, man, we were pretty surprised. I think we both were a little surprised how much we liked Pittsburgh when we went through the process.
Right.
And again, like I think the Jets are probably properly priced. I think the defense can be okay. The offensive line is interesting, but like the floor when Justin Fields is brought into the fold is just pretty low from a week to week standpoint. And again, tough test against Pittsburgh, right? Like, and there's the revenge narrative basically, right? For both quarterbacks. Like I would think Mike Tomlin knows what he needs to do to frustrate Justin Fields pre and post snap. And I think they probably do that pretty well. So.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that just a lot of stuff in their favor. Like Jake took an under already in that game. We're contemplating more unders. We're just trying to like mitigate risk of like how many unders can we take in that game and not like, I don't know, screw ourselves over or like be too heavily correlated into one thing in case like we get, screwed with like a random punt return touchdown and the Jets end up running like 70 plays randomly by accident. Like, so yeah, we're trying to figure that out, but there's probably more unders to come there, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that for sure.
Let's hear the one more bet would be Niners 2.5 against the Seahawks, which I think that you might disagree with me on. I don't know. Like I think the Seahawks defense is obviously very good and they played really well and the Seahawks won a lot of games last year, but like, I don't get the bull case here for this like offense. Like I get it. I understand it, but I'm just like, I'm very like, hear me out. This offensive line, Brandon Thorne has them like 26th. I think our guy, offensive line ranking has him like Justin Edwards has him like 27th or 28th. So we're talking about a bottom 7 offensive line. And I don't think there's much room for disagreement there. Maybe you want to make him average. That's best case scenario. You have Sam Darnold, who's like been one of the worst quarterbacks under pressure in the NFL the last, I don't know, 5-6 years, whatever, since he started his career, who is like the seeing ghost quarterback who we just saw last year fall under pressure and became like a literal cupcake, like the worst quarterback in the league for those couple games where he got pressured. And then you have JSN, who's been good, not great, good. And like slot mostly, but can probably play outside. I think he's a good player. You have a washed Cooper Kupp. His own team didn't even want him after drafting him, grooming him, like making him an awesome player, and then just threw him to the curb after he is like this. So you have some washed up number 2 who's probably like a slot only guy at this point. He's like basically dead weight on the outside against man coverage. So like I get like there's a whole scheme stuff with the offensive line and like, yeah, then maybe there's zone blocking scheme. Like for sure that stuff matters to an extent, but like at the end of the day, these guys just might suck. Like this might just be like a disaster waiting to happen. And then you're facing like a Robert Saleh defense. They added some more interior defensive line guys. Like if they stop the run, like are we letting Sam Darnold against Robert Saleh like really cook you? I just would be very surprised. So like I think the downside of this offense is like really, really, really low. And like no one else seems to be talking about it. They just seem to be assuming that this is going to be like a good offense, and I just am not there at all.
I actually don't disagree. I actually struggle with this team, and I've seen a lot of people. Part of it, I've had a little FOMO because I've seen them be kind of a little bit of a trendy sleeper nationally in the last like week or two. And I think we maybe did our NFC West preview further back, and I was just like, man, am I missing something on Seattle? Because I am a huge Mike Macdonald fan. I think this is an elite defense, and I think he's like talent wise, and I think he's a talent. We've seen it. Like those are they were pretty average Ravens defensive units that he took. They're significantly better now, but like, early Kyle Hamilton days, and they really didn't have much in terms of pass rush. And he always found a way to like make them a top 10 unit. So I really believe that he's an excellent coach, but I don't disagree with you. Like we can't sit here and praise Kevin O'Connell for being this like insane talent maximizer, and he just gets the most out of his quarterbacks. And then we're pulling Sam Darnold out, but we're using good Sam Darnold stats from Minnesota to like go over here to Seattle, where it's just a different situation, right? It's a completely different. There's the talent around him is all different. So I don't disagree. I'm kind of just flat on them. I think they're going to be okay. They're going to win some games they shouldn't, and they'll probably lose some games that they should win. This is a little tough for me. Again, like early season divisional dog at home is not something I'm like dying to jump into, but I think San Francisco is the better team. So 2.5 is probably the right side.
Yeah, I kind of like San Fran there. That was one of the things that I bet as well. Just, looking through all this stuff, prep for the show. To me, again, like San Fran has their own set of issues, but you have Juwan Jennings almost certainly going to play after reporting practice. Ricky Pierce all looks great. CMC is healthy. George Kittle's a dog. Like their O-line will still always find a way, like they always do, basically.
Yeah.
I just think that they're like significantly a better team than the Seahawks at this point. Plus the defensive downside, again, like could be easily like a multi-interception game or a lot of sacks, something like that. Brian mentioned Geno Smith's greater than Sam Darnold. I don't disagree. I like, maybe that's a hot take.
No,
I don't know.
I think it's fact.
We have one year of body of work of Sam Darnold with Justin Jefferson, Kevin O'Connell, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, like behind a top 5 offensive line. Like, it's tough to separate that stuff. It really is. I get it. But the rest of his body of work has been like pure garbage. So we'll see. We'll see.
I want to +1 our guy Hunter's Texans Rams under 44.5. I think that's a pretty good look. I think the Texans defense can be awesome. It looks like Alaric Jackson's going to play left tackle, dealing with tailbone issues and blood clots. Seems like a bad combination. Looks like he's going to play though. But again, we're also dealing with like just clearly rusty question marks around Stafford. So 44 kind of sit on the wrong side, or I guess the right side of a key number for us to take the under. Getting that half point at 44 matters quite a bit, right? If this is a 24-20 game, we're fine. I very much could see that one coming into play. Lean Rams, but like the under there. That's something that Hunter put out for subscribers as well. The last one I really like is, again, just kind of planting the flag. Sunday night, probably the premier game of the week. Give me the Ravens Ravens money line. We're kind of just bouncing around. There's some like 1.5s. The Ravens getting 1.5, so it actually puts the Ravens in like Wong teasers range, where you can then tease them through the 7 basically at 1.5. It's pretty sweet. Give me the Ravens plus 7.5 against anybody at any park in any scenario. But yeah, give me the Ravens straight up. I have concerns about this. Look, I think part of the Bills thing is the schedule. Undeniably, Charmin soft schedule, and it's a really good football team. But I think we're going to get in a spot where like the perception of who they are is maybe even a little bit inflated because of the schedule. They're going to, I think, probably be the top seed in the AFC if Josh Allen stays healthy, because the other contenders at the top have way harder schedules. But they have some concerns and questions right now in the secondary. Maxwell Harrison, their first round pick, is not healthy, probably doesn't play in week 1. Tre'Davious White, again, this is not your older cousins, Tre'Davious White. This is not the first iteration of the Bills, Tre'Davious White. He could not find the field for the Rams, and he could not find the field last year for the Ravens when they were dealing with secondary issues and desperately needed some quarterback play. Dusty, right? The Cooper Cup of defensive backs. It was great while it was great. It is no longer that. Now they are dying for him to play in this game because they need him, because they don't have Harrison in the games. That's a spot where I just would expect, say, Flowers, Bateman. They're going to be opportunities on the perimeter for the Ravens to take advantage. Now, they also went out and spent a bunch of draft capital and free agent money along the defensive line. Well, a couple of those guys got dinged for PEDs, and they're like suspended for 4 to 6 games. They're not active yet. And then they lost Dwayne Carter for the season through an ACL injury, one of their interior defensive linemen, who's not great, but he's going to play 35, 40% of the snaps, and now he's out. So whoever you deemed him to be better than to give him those snaps now has to play more, right? So there's just some injury concerns on the side of the Bills that made me a little bit nervous. And I'm not surprised that Jair Alexander is maybe questionable for this game for the Ravens. We would expect that for the Ravens. The rest of it's fantastic. So give me the Ravens money line. Give me the Ravens. I think like FanDuel's got plus 1.5. If you like to do the Wongs, that's a great spot through the 3, through the 7. But I think the Ravens win this football game on Sunday night.
Yeah, I think this is another example of a like team that we view as the best like roster in the NFL, right? So like against anyone, we'd, have them in a really good spot. And then obviously you add in some of the Bills injuries here heading into week 1, or just in unavailability. I think the Ravens here are pretty interesting. So yeah, don't disagree there. I think Ravens money line could be a good one.
Yeah. Why don't we bring up a sharp stack, and then while we're looking at that too, first tell us about some of the week 1 props that you've already absolutely destroyed.
Yeah, we so talked about James Conner already. Played that one over 15.5 carries. Played Will Dissly under 24.5 receiving yards. You can still get some like 19s, I think, at different spots here. And that I think is still interesting because they brought in Tyler Conklin, and in preseason, Tyler Conklin played more like the receiving role, and Dissly didn't really do that. They also have that guy, Arande Gadsden, that they talked up all offseason. Now, I don't think he plays a whole lot, but like he might play a little bit, enough to like for it to matter for a guy where that might not see that many targets. So under 2.5 receptions and over on the yard or under on the yards there, I think is pretty interesting. So those are the 2 so far. And then I played 2 or a couple more today. Played Kenneth Walker under 64.5 rushing yards. Again, I already voiced a lot of the concerns, I think, in the Seattle segment there about that offensive line and the situation. We just might see more Zach Charbonnet too. You get a new play caller. Like I find it hard to believe that after talking him up all offseason, they're not going to use him like a little bit at least. And then played one more today. And I don't know why I'm so. Oh, Mike Gesicki under 2.5 receptions. Played that as well. Yeah. I think that's a really good spot. And I mean, his splits without T. Higgins or with T. Higgins, he averages like 4 targets per game instead of like 7. Then you bring in Noah Fant this offseason to play like a bigger role. And, I think he's going to see a ton of targets too. So also, I don't know if this is a ceiling game. Like, is Joe Burrow going to throw the ball 45 times? If yes, then probably all unders are sunk. If no, then I mean, even 35, 40 times, I think we're still in a good spot for Gesicki. So those are some of the ones that I played so far. I don't know if you want to touch on the one that you hit too.
Yeah, I played a longest reception prop. Darius Slayton over 15.5-yard longest reception in that game against the Commanders. Concerns about the Commanders perimeter corners. Slayton's kind of an A-dot king. Signed that big deal in the offseason. So he'll be out there in 2 receiver sets even. And look, Russ has checkdowns and moonballs, right? So we're basically, in my opinion, betting on does Darius Slayton catch a ball in this game. And I think he does. I think his prop line's like over 1.5, juiced severely to the over. I think Slayton's a pretty good player when he's healthy. And it's a good spot where I think it'd be an interesting game. And I like the pace. I think that we see Commanders continue to play with a ton of pace offensively. I think we saw Dayball, especially this preseason, particularly when Jackson Dart, shout out to Pat Thorman, had this in his snaps, preview article on Establish the Run, especially when Jackson Dart was in the lineup. They were running a lot more no huddle and with pace. I think they probably just kind of implement that a little bit more, even with Russ. So I think there just could be more opportunity and volume in this game. So lots of outs for Slayton to catch 1 16-yard pass and call it a day. It only takes one, as the 4for4 betting subscribers know, on the longest plays. We just need the one.
I wonder if Caesars will post like the alt longest reception ones, because I think he's ripe for like a 20 or a 30 even. Yeah. So yeah, I might dabble in that. I'll see. I haven't checked Caesars yet though, but I like that look. Slayton's like one of my highest owned best ball players. Slayton Dart stacks are going to lead me to financial freedom here. It's like I'm like 25% of both, which is disgusting and would probably insulting to most best ball bros, to be honest. But hey, my bad.
I love it. Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, it's hard not to be excited what you saw with Dart. Another guy with big A-dot at Ole Miss, fits Neighbors, fits Slayton. Slayton completely disrespected in like any platform's ADP, best ball or redraft or any of that stuff. So yeah, a couple of looks here. If you're watching on 4for4 live on YouTube, you can see Sharp Stack up. It's the EV tool. Again, it's a suite of betting tools. 4for4.com/plans. Again, this is the top tier plan. If you get this, you buy Sharp Stack, that plan, it comes with everything. So you'll get all of our picks. You'll get DFS, you get season long, you get all that stuff. So the EV tool is basically a top-down tool leveraging sharp bookmaking books against slower moving domestic books, finding EV from a bet perspective, long-term growth, right? If you're thinking about staking these bets long-term, like this type of bet is going to win out over time. Lots of great little things here. Again, EV tool is the bell of the ball of the tools. Though Connor's highlighting a few things here for us to look at.
Yeah, I wanted to run through a couple here. I mean, Calvin Ridley receptions under 4.5, -112 right now at Bet Rivers. I mean, as high as -165 at Fliff, Builder right here is -141. Like, I mean, it probably shouldn't be -112. So I think that's like something that if you have access to Bet Rivers is a good look. Hard Rock's posting a bunch of awful lines too. Marvin Mims receptions, like 3.5 receptions, -135. -175, -180 on FanDuel. So like some of these, some of these are just like way off. Again, like Kyler Murray passing touchdowns. Like, I mean, again, this is like widely -140. Pinnacle is -155 on the under, and you're getting -117. So when I say that, like, I've tried to tell some of our subs, I'm like, look, this stuff is like popping. I can't overestimate how much I'm talking about here, because like MLB stuff was good, NBA stuff was solid, but then NFL week 1 stuff comes around and like some of these books are just like asleep at the wheel. Like this is like, they're, again, like I was just showing you some examples, like 40 to 50 cents off of like, what other books are at. So maybe you don't even like that bet it, and then bet it back on the other book. And like, you could probably have a middle, or you can have an ARB if you want, like if you'd end up not liking it, because it's probably only going to move one way. So I don't know, just highlighted a couple here, but I think these are some good ones already that we already looked at. I mean, this is pretty interesting.
Yeah, look, I mean, there's going to be some books here where, yeah, it's going to be hard for you to get down. But again, you have all the books here that are available to you. If you happen to have clean accounts in some of these particular books, again, it's not like we haven't seen, options here to take advantage of on Caesars or FanDuel, books that are more widely available for people to, get down the full stake that they're looking for. We know that some of these books are hard for people. They might not even be available in your state. Again, there's also the pick'em element too, right? In the, if you don't have, you're not in a domestic, legal betting state, and you want to be able to take advantage of leveraging some of this stuff on DraftKings Pick 6, Underdog, Prize Picks. You can do that here too. And like, let's make a Pick 6 WNBA slip, because why not? Because again, it's not just football. We can pick off soft baseball lines here in September, playoff baseball, anything we're going to be able to find an advantage on. Let's get down and win some money.
Yeah. Last little bit, I teased the subscribers, is market-based projections that we just launched. So like basically taking the market, the sharp markets, and, weighting them essentially, and then creating like projections based on that. So you can use that for betting. It's kind of basically just like a different way of looking at the EV tool if you want. Like we're already kind of doing the math for you on the EV tool, but like for DFS, for fantasy, for just like another projection point on like what you like, I guess, are considering on anything. I think it's a pretty good standpoint. So we have, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, anything that has a market, we'll have, market-based projection for, and then eventually we'll work in like touchdowns and stuff too. We just haven't gotten there yet. So this is actually free, as well as the odds screens are free. So like the odds screen, the prop screen, both free for now. And then the other stuff, you can get a 7-day free trial just automatically when you sign up. So you can test it out for week 1. I mean, again, like I went through like 4 awesome bets in 30 seconds that I think are all worth popping. Plus anything that's popping on this is good. But those 4 that I went through, I think are just like legit awesome bets right now.
Yeah. 4for4.com/plans. For Move the Line listeners, you can use promo code MTL. You're going to get 25% off of any subscription at 4for4, including the Sharp Stack one. So again, take advantage, reach out directly if you have any questions. We'd love to be able to help you out, but it's been something to supplement kind of the dry season here in the summer. So we had it in demo mode on, the WNBA and baseball side, but now it is Christmas morning with all of these NFL props and markets. And as we continue to get more books and more markets, part of it right now is just some of these books are real slow in certain markets, but once we, floodgates open on Sunday, inactives coming in and out. I mean, a huge advantage to have this screen open on a Sunday morning, right around inactive time to be able to just hammer some stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I forgot to announce we're doing a live show too on Sundays in inactives, 10:30, 11:30 Eastern, I guess, 10:30 Central, around there, 10:25. Probably just hop on, talk about some bets, look at this, have this pulled up, and just fire away for like 20 minutes, hit some late breaking news, and log off. It'll just be like a fun, crazy 15-20 minutes.
Yeah, I cannot wait. So yeah, again, if you have questions, let us know. Again, this is news, not for, you can still, Connor and I are still originating our own place, right? What we've done, the foundation of the betting subscription and what we do at 4for4 is still in play. But yeah, I like this to supplement. So love it. That's it. That's all I got.
Sweet.
So,
that's it. That was a good week 1. Hour, 7 minutes. We thought 30. I said 30-40. We just got going on the other games, and never 40 minutes. It'll always be.
Yeah, never 40 minutes. I hear the wife opening up the garage door because she's ready for me to come go pick up my son for school. So yeah, we're ready to go. So again, Move the Line wherever you listen to podcasts. 4for4 live on the YouTube channel. Again, we'll be back on Friday for Prop Drop, 3 p.m. Eastern. Myself, Connor, and Slop. For Connor, I'm Ryan. We'll see y'all next time. Thanks, everybody.